All right, let's move on to the next block. We got to cover DOGE. Let's go to DOGE City. We're going to hear Elon on the Rogan Experience talking about some of the fraud they found. Then we got something that Tulsi found a whole bunch of X-rated type of chat room stuff going on over there and had to fire a whole bunch of people from pedo land. And then we got the FBI deleting more evidence and getting real panicky because I guess they thought their hand was never going to get pushed or they're going to have to not show their cards. They thought that was never going to happen. But now from a variety of directions, they're getting some more pressure. So we'll go to the quartering and redacted to get some of those clips and stories. And then we'll come back and comment because we got more to do.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
And that's the problem that I see with all this DOGE stuff.
Right.
Because everybody should be celebrating that we've found a way to cut out fraud and waste.
Yeah.
If you pay taxes and you don't like that you have to pay so much in taxes, and then you find out that there's significant fraud and waste that's been exposed, you should be celebrating it. This shouldn't be, oh no, the wrong people found this fact and now it's a bad thing.
Yes.
And then there's the fucking propaganda, the mindfuck of calling it U.S. aid.
Yeah.
Instead of the United States Agency for International Development. It sounds like it's feeding hungry people.
Right.
People are going to starve, Elon. This is horrible. And then you find out, actually, it's like $250 million for transgender animal studies. Like,
Yeah,
it's
they're
like
literally mutilating animals.
yes. Yes.
Mutilating animals in demented studies.
Yes.
That are like the worst thing you could possibly imagine from a horror show.
The beagle one. The beagle puppy one.
Horrific, yeah.
Where they covered their head in a basket and put fleas on their heads to eat them alive.
Yeah.
And then they studied these beagles and then killed them. Like, what are you going to learn from that? That's good for anybody.
Yeah. There's some psychotic stuff that happens. So, yeah, I mean, I guess the real threat here is to the bureaucracy. So, like you probably saw, like, you know, let's say like Trump as a threat to our democracy, which is ironic since he was elected with the majority of the, you know, popular vote. They started saying I was a threat to democracy. But if you just replace threat to democracy with threat to bureaucracy, it makes total sense.
Right.
So, I mean, the reality is that our elected officials have very little power relative to the bureaucracy until DOGE. So DOGE is a threat to the bureaucracy. It's the first threat to the bureaucracy. Normally the bureaucracy eats revolutions for breakfast. This is the first time that they're not, that the revolution might actually succeed, that we could restore power to the people instead of power to the bureaucracy.
Now, the size of it
Yeah.
was when you guys first started investigating it, when you first get in, how much of it was shocking? Like this, just the size of it all.
Well, the size of it all, the small decisions result in multi-billion-dollar outcomes. So, you know, we'd see, you know, there was a case where we saw one person was getting $1.9 billion sent to their NGO, which basically got formed about a year ago and had no prior, really no prior activity. So they just stand up an NGO. The whole NGO thing is a nightmare. And it's a misnomer because if you have a government-funded, non-governmental organization, you're simply a government-funded organization. It's an oxymoron.
Right. It's a loophole.
Yes. It basically, the government-funded NGOs are a way to do things that would be illegal if they were the government, but are somehow made legal if it's sent to a so-called nonprofit. But these nonprofits are then used to, people cash out these nonprofits. They become very wealthy through nonprofits. They pay themselves enormous sums through these nonprofits.
It's so insane that that's been going on for so long.
It's a gigantic scam, like one of the biggest, maybe the biggest scam ever.
And how many NGOs?
I think there's a total number of NGOs, probably millions, but in terms of large NGOs, tens of thousands. I mean, it's actually kind of a hack to the system where someone can get an NGO stood up for a fairly small amount of money. Like George Soros was really good at this. Like George Soros is like a system hacker. Like he figured out how to hack the system. He's a genius at arbitrage. I mean, these days he's pretty old, but a genius at arbitrage. So he figured out that you could leverage a small amount of money to create a nonprofit, then lobby the politicians to send a ton of money to that nonprofit, so you can take what might be, a $10 million donation to a nonprofit to create a nonprofit and leverage that into $1 billion NGO. A nonprofit is a weird word. It's just a non-governmental organization, and then the government continues to fund that every year, and it'll have a nice sounding name like the Institute for Peace or something like that. But really, it's a graft machine.
And what are the requirements with that money? What do they have to do?
Just really no requirements at all.
So they just get grants and the government just assumes that they're doing good work.
I think a lot of people in the government know that they're not doing good work. But it's a giant graft machine. I mean,
but surely
people online are like unpacking this,
right? It almost seems fake. Like when you're seeing how we were covering this article that said 55,000 Democrat NGOs were discovered that had been contributing to campaigns and moving things around and pushing propaganda, and they were all connected. And they found it through AI. That you have to go through steps and steps and steps to figure out where the money's coming from. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's all funneling down to this group, and this group does that. And it's a giant propaganda machine, a giant regime change machine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean,
but does it do some good as well?
It does some good. So it's like it's not like 0% good. If it was really 0% good, it'd be much easier to attack. So there's going to be some percent good that they add in there, but it's like it might be 5% or 10% good, but 95% not.
So is there a way to audit all this stuff and find out, these people are actually just sending food to poor people. These people are actually just helping people with water in third world countries. There's a way to do that and keep funding those?
Yeah. I mean, we have continued to fund things that appear to be legitimate, even with the flimsiest, if there's even the flimsiest excuse. Like I just say, send me a picture of the thing. Like you could literally have AI generate the picture, but if you're not even willing to try to trick me, then we're not going to send the money. Okay. So
what restrictions were put on? There was something set aside, like medicine, and there's what was set aside that there wasn't going to be a freeze on?
Work for Ebola prevention. I actually don't even know if this work is even effective. It may or may not be. It could be the kind of thing where you sort of fund Ebola prevention, but it turns out that actually you're funding a lab that develops new Ebola recipes or something.
Yeah.
And they claim it's Ebola prevention, but it's actually Ebola creation. So some of these things, I don't know. I mean, just. But it just seems like we shouldn't be sending taxpayer money to dubious enterprises overseas.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And why are we doing it? Like, what exactly is the reason? Is it because we want to make friends with these people so the Chinese don't take over, the Russians don't take over? Okay, how much of that is like a good thing? How much of that is smart to do? And how much is a grift? And without any sort of oversight, which has really been going on for so long, they've just had free run.
Yeah. Well, also we just have a real issue with the budget deficit. It's gigantic. So, if all things being equal, if we didn't have a gigantic budget deficit where interest payments, the interest on the national debt exceeds the Defense Department budget, which is truly astounding. Which means we're paying over $1 trillion of interest on the national debt. Then we would have more room for wasting money, basically. But when we're spending so much money that the country is going bankrupt, then we really need to stop spending money unless we're sure it is good value.
So essentially, we're like a poorly managed business with an unlimited credit line that is off the rails.
Absolutely.
And if you were a person like you are who comes in and takes over businesses and straightens them out, That's exactly what you're doing.
I mean, most of the time I create businesses from scratch. Like
Right.
Twitter was a case where, I kind of bought a company that was, I kind of knew it was a hairball.
Well, you came in at Tesla in the beginning, but they were already doing something, right?
No, Tesla did not exist in any meaningful form. There were no employees. J.B. Straubel and I joined 3 other people. There was no car. There was no nothing.
So it
was the
wasn't
beginning.
even a prototype yet?
No,
Oh, okay. I thought it was a prototype already.
no. There
So-
weren't even any employees.
Oh. Wasn't it that's a funny narrative that people like to say that you didn't even create Tesla then.
Yeah, that's wrong.
So if you're handling the government like a business, you're going to have to go through all of these departments and do the exact same thing that you're doing with USAID. So how does that scale up? Like, how many people do you need to do something like that?
Well, we started off with about 40 people, we got, maybe 100 people. And we're really just going through doing very basic things here. It's as bad as Twitter was, the federal government is much worse. So, in the case of Twitter, it wasn't a profitable company. It was like basically a break-even company, but at least it was break-even, and it had to pass an audit. The federal government is not break-even. It's literally losing $2 trillion a year, and it does not pass its audits. It fails its own audits. So, there's a case where, I think Senator Collins was telling me about how she gave the Navy $12 billion for more submarines, got no extra submarines, and then held a hearing to say where'd the $12 billion go, and they were like, we don't know. That was it. Basically, the stuff is so crazy. It's only the federal government could get away with this level of waste. Waste. It's mostly waste. It's mostly not fraud. It's mostly waste. It's mostly just ridiculous things happening.
Because they've been able to do it this way for so long. They've become accustomed to it.
Yeah. I mean, it's like Milton Friedman said, money is most poorly spent when you're spending someone else's money on people you don't know. How much are you going to care?
Right.
And that's the federal government. So they're spending someone else's money on people they don't know.
Now imagine any other business that was this badly run
It would be
that
dead.
complains when you want to check the books and audit it and go through all the decisions that have been made and go through all the ledgers and what did you do?
Well, the people receiving the money want to keep receiving the money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, clearly.
Yes. So, but, I mean, the reason I'm putting so much effort into this is that I think it is a very dire situation. It's not it's not optional, basically. So, America's going bankrupt, so that just can't happen.
It's just bizarre to me that some people aren't willing to look at it correctly. They're not willing to see how much chaos this is, how much waste and fraud there is, how much can be trimmed, and how much. Just because people have jobs doing bullshit doesn't mean your tax dollar should pay for this bullshit.
Yes. We found just with a basic search of the Social Security database that there were 20 million dead people marked as alive.
But were they getting money?
Some of them are getting money.
What percentage of them?
It isn't clear. We're actually trying to run this through. I was trying to get an answer right before the show. What it looks like is that most of the fraud is not coming from Social Security payments directly, but because they're marked as alive in the Social Security database, that they can get disability, unemployment, sort of fake medical payments, and other things because they're marked as alive in the Social Security database. So it looks like it's a bank. The fraud is a bank shot, essentially. They bank shot into Social Security. They just do an "Are you alive?" check, and then get fraudulent payments from every other part of the government.
Oh.
Yeah. And this exploits the fundamental weakness in the government is that the various government databases, they don't talk to each other. So they talk to each other very poorly in a very limited way. So the way that the system gets exploited is by taking advantage of the poor communication between the various databases in the government. To give you an example of like what's happening in, say, Treasury, which is improving rapidly, the main payments computer is called PAM, like payment accounts master database or something like that, but everyone calls it PAM. That's responsible for almost $5 trillion of payments a year, roughly $1 billion an hour. And when we came there, we're looking at the PAM, and it's like the payments have no. You could put a payment through with no payment categorization code, and no description on the payment, like basically untraceable blank checks. This is the kind of thing that if it was done as a public company, the company would be immediately delisted, and the executive team would be thrown in prison. But this is just normal at the government. So we said, okay, our recommendation to the Treasury and the Federal Reserve is like, we need to make the payment categorization codes mandatory, not optional, and there needs to be an explanation. We're not judging the quality of the explanation, but there should be some explanation for what this payment is for above nothing. That's a radical change to the system that is being implemented now. My guess is that probably saves $100 billion a year.
Jesus Christ.
That's
where was that money going?
Rough order of magnitude. Probably.
Where was that money going?
Well, so this is where you get into the sort of gray boundary between waste and fraud. If money is sent to a person or organization from the government, and you didn't really deserve it, but the government still sent it to you, is that waste or fraud?
Right.
So, I mean, there's a lot of payments where someone just approved the payment, but then that payment officer changed jobs or retired or died, and the payments just keep going. You know, it's like if you forget to pay your gym membership or something like that.
Right.
Now, imagine it's not the gym membership. You said your gym membership's $20 billion a year or something, you know. But they forgot to turn it off. That's happening at scale in the government.
Jesus
It's totally nuts,
Christ,
is what I'm saying.
So insane.
Yes, it's totally insane. So
what did you expect when you went?
Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. You know, the general understanding, the general common consensus about government is that things don't get done, or at least they don't get done very quickly, and accountability seems almost non-existent. It's kind of like an open secret that everybody knows and understands. Similar to public school teachers who are unionized, or professors who have tenure, they could pretty much do whatever they want, and you know they're not going anywhere. There's no accountability there. Well, I think for the most part, a lot of people have had the same view of government. But boy, how things are now moving fast. Boy, how things change when the executive of the country actually exercises his power. In other words, Donald Trump is not effing around, and neither are the people around him. And so things are moving fast, and people very quickly are being put on the chopping block. And when something comes to light, it's not just a blip on the radar for investigative journalists to expose. It becomes a quick little story in the media, and then everybody forgets about it. No, it gets exposed, and then this administration jumps on it immediately, pounces like a damn freaking panther, and immediately dishes on a silver platter a very, very healthy dose of accountability. That is what we're seeing. And it keeps making me say the exact same thing. It's the same sentiment I've had here. What a freaking breath of fresh air. And once again, we've got a healthy dose of accountability here. Yesterday, Christopher Rufo broke a massive story, a huge scandal, showing us leaked chat logs that really exposed the partisan bias, the blue anon takeover of the federal government. And boom, the next day, those people were all fired. Tulsi Gabbard confirms that she jumped on the story, found all the individuals, issued a memo, and boom, they are gone. Now that is how it's supposed to work when inappropriate conduct is found. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Okay, so very quickly, let's do a little bit of backstory here. And actually, I'm going to have to be very careful because a lot of this stuff is not exactly safe for YouTube, which really puts it into perspective now, doesn't it? What we're covering here is internal communications within the federal government, within some of the most important agencies, and it's so vile, it's so extreme, it's so explicit in its sexual content that I can't even really get into all of it on YouTube because it might get my channel in trouble. But basically, investigative reporter Christopher Rufo obtained internal chat logs at some of the biggest agencies. I showed you guys some of the more political posts from yesterday. Well, here's the more adult-themed stuff. Christopher Rufo posts this, exclusive. Hannah Grossman and I have obtained logs from the NSA's secret transgender chat room, in which NSA, CIA, and DIA employees discuss genital castration, artificial female parts, urine proclivities, sex polycules, and gangbangs, all on government time. This is insane. We've got this very interesting post. Medical science is going to give me breasts, I'm going to reword that, one way or another. I was feeling like the size I went with were on the small size, but after hanging out with Gadget, I have been reminded once more of just how big they actually are. As my best friend / battle buddy said, I want proportions that would give me back pain. Look, I just enjoying helping other people experience boobs. Here's another post. I mean, honestly, the rest is nice too. Wearing panties without worrying about showing anything, seeing my reflection in the mirror wearing leggings, but the pee thing is something I never thought of, but it's really nice. Mine is everything. I found that I like being penetrated, never liked it before, but all the rest is just as important as well. All I can say is that this was 100,000,000% worth it, despite having to fly to Thailand, pay out of pocket in the recovery. I would not change anything if I had to do it all over again. You kind of get the gist of this, right? And I mean, just scrolling through this, I can show you guys here visually. I'll post it up on screen and scroll through all the posts. There's a whole lot of it. According to our sources, the sex chats were legitimized as part of NSA's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Activists within the agency use LGBTQ+ employee resource groups to turn their kinks and pathologies into official work duties. According to the current NSA employee, these groups spent all day recruiting activists and holding meetings with titles such as privilege, ally awareness, pride, transgender community inclusion, and they did so with the full support of NSA leadership, which declared that DEI was not only mission critical, but mission imperative. I mean, just crazy stuff. This is what your taxpayer dollars were funding. And I don't know if I need to go on a 30-minute rant here explaining why this is totally inappropriate to be doing at any job, let alone a government job, being paid taxpayer dollars, especially at some of the most important agencies in Washington. Honestly, I really feel as though I don't really even have to make the argument. It makes itself. But the question is there something being done about it? And of course, that's the whole premise of the video. Absolutely. Almost instantaneously. A little bit after this post, Christopher Rufo wrote, Scoop. Tulsi Gabbard is preparing a memo directing all intelligence agencies to identify the employees who participated in the NSA's obscene, pornographic, and sexually explicit chat rooms and terminate their employment and revoke their security clearances. Deadline is by Friday, and Tulsi Gabbard immediately responded, saying, memo sent, we know who they are, action is underway. I don't even know what to say, other than I'm thankful. Finally, common sense has entered the building. It feels like finally the adults are back in charge. And Tulsi Gabbard actually took to Fox News to discuss what happened a little bit.
What we're going to do has already been done. There are over 100 people from across the intelligence community that contributed to and participated in this, what is really just an egregious violation of trust, what to speak of like basic rules and standards around professionalism. I put out a directive today that they all will be terminated and their security clearances will be revoked. But the thing here, Jesse, is like we got to take a step back because this is just barely.
What's wrong, everyone?
The FBI, CIA potentially caught destroying classified evidence, files, servers, as Kash Patel is coming into clean house. Journalist Michael Schellenberger first reported this last night. Here's his tweet. FBI whistleblower Go Baxual, who is, by the way, Garrett O'Boyle, confirmed to me that a source inside FBI said that FBI employees were destroying evidence on servers and that he informed Kash Patel. I hope that he and AG Bondi, John Ratcliffe, Elon Musk, Luna Paula Paulina Luna are preventing this. We urgently need disclosure on this. And then to which Congresswoman Luna then said there's a war happening right now inside the intelligence community. So
what is going on here? They're destroying evidence. They're destroying servers. They're trying to hide their tracks on their way out. Chris Biota is a 25-year FBI veteran. He served as the chief of FBI science and technology programs, one of the top guys at the FBI. Here's his book, Wanted, The FBI I Once Knew, How to Restore Faith in the World's Premier Law Enforcement Agency. And Christopher joins us now to talk about this and what's happening inside the intelligence community right now. Chris, great to see you. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. Great to be here.
So first, your reaction to hearing from these whistleblowers. I mean, Garrett O'Boyle was an FBI whistleblower, as you know, telling Michael Schellenberger that he has confirmed that there are FBI agents that are destroying servers, destroying evidence. What do you make of that at a high level, and what sort of evidence do you think that they're destroying?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that if true and accurate, it would be very disappointing to hear that the FBI culture has declined to that point. I need some more information on exactly what they were talking about as far as destroying servers and files, because FBI line personnel, I mean, rank and file FBI agents and professional support staff do not have access to those types of information technology equipment or to even electronically remove files for destruction. So I have to get a little bit more information in that. The FBI's information management and data systems, they're all fully auditable. They're all fully traceable, and they're discoverable in for litigation purposes. So need a little bit more information to see about what possibly could be going on.
Right. This can't just be burning papers. It doesn't work like that. So we have to assume we have some sort of redundancy. But CNN piggybacked that report by saying that some people in intelligence, they named the CIA, but also possibly the FBI, could be motivated to take what they know to a foreign intelligence service. What does that mean? As if they would sabotage the rest of us and because they're disgruntled, or what would be in it for somebody to do that? What's the motivation?
Well, that's been a standing threat forever. Anytime you have disgruntled employees, people who are fired, people who leave the organization under some sort of negative circumstances, there's always a threat that they can go to an adversary or a competitor and they can offer their information, experience, knowledge, or maybe even access to third-party personnel who would cooperate. So it's always been a problem, and I think the intelligence community, law enforcement community, they police that the best they can, but it's not something that we can resolve once they're let go from the organizations.
Now you've had.
So wait, can I just clarify that point? So do you think CNN may be ratcheting this up as a fear, as a reaction to disgruntled employees because of Trump, when it has always been a fear? Is it perhaps that we're being manipulated by the media to think that this is because of Trump?
I think what you're seeing is maybe a little bit more highlighting on the issue now because of the mass firings across the government, and people are in fear for their jobs. And there's a lot of disgruntlement right now, which again creates that what people call the insider threat inside of organizations, where people with access to sensitive systems and information, once they're terminated and they leave with a bad feeling, they become highly recruitable by our adversaries.
So you're a 25-year FBI veteran. I imagine, and I'm speculating, that you maybe have talked to some individuals who are still at the FBI who are maybe, I don't know, nervous, or what are they seeing behind the scenes right now as Kash Patel has come in? We're hearing, Congresswoman Luna saying there's a war right now within the intelligence community. Is that accurate? What are you hearing from your sources at the FBI?
What I hear mainly is that there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of confusion. Folks don't know what's going on. I don't know if the messaging has been as good as it could have been on some of the activities, and telling people why certain things were happening. I think folks are left in the dark, and it's creating a lot of just anxiety, I guess is the best word. But I will say that, a war inside of the intelligence and law enforcement communities is probably not too far from being correct, because there are some ideological differences inside the organizations. We've seen over the past 4 years, the FBI has been involved in certain operations, investigations, and decisions that were seen as partisan. And I think that that's what the administration is concerned about right now, is that those pockets of people or groups of people still remain in the organizations, and they're still going to do things based upon ideological or personal politics.
Can we go back to the Michael Schellenberger piece here? Confirmed to me that a source inside FBI said FBI employees were destroying evidence on servers. A couple of people in our chat room are saying, well, are there backups of these servers? Like, and if it was like high level individuals at the FBI destroying information on these servers, like what would this, what would this be? And are there backups that we would be able to trace all of this?
First of all, the high level officials at the FBI wouldn't probably know how to do it. So that, I think you're safe there. But most of the FBI data systems are all backed up. They're all backed up.
Okay.
And as I said earlier, they're fully auditable and traceable. And one of the things that people forget is that you can make something more conspicuous by its absence. When you have serialized transactional information inside of the FBI's data systems and record management systems, and all of a sudden there are missing parts, pieces, there are missing serialized documents, there are missing case file entries, it just draws attention by its absence. So there's no way they can do it without drawing some sort of a review or some sort of scrutiny in doing so. And my question would be, if true and accurate, who ordered this? Because the rank and file folks aren't doing this type of stuff.
Right.
So we're all left to speculate, what is it they are destroying?
Right.
A week ago, Pam Bondi said she has the Epstein file on her desk. I assume it's not a printout. So I guess, would you like to join in speculating what you think it is that they would in fact hide? Would it be Epstein related? Would it be Diddy related? Or
JFK?
What I think, where my mind goes, is most likely a lot of them were led by the nose by the Biden administration to prosecute anything that was negative for conservatives. And they don't want those sort of marching orders. That's what I think. Do you want to ring in on any of that speculation and put forth your own?
You know what? I really wish that none of that was true, right? Because my former organization used to be one of the most trusted and revered in the federal government, and I sincerely hope that none of this is true, and maybe it was a misunderstanding of something that was going on. But I will say that there are people, when put under pressure, will do some pretty wild things to try to save themselves. So I'm not saying it's impossible. I would just like to think that it's improbable that the FBI, one of our primary arbiters of fidelity, bravery, and integrity, would be involved in that type of activity.
Right, because could they say, yes, I followed this lead, I violated this person's civil rights because he was a January 6er, because this was the appetite within the Bureau. I did this because this is my marching order. But now, is there that plausible deniability of any of the agents who may be accused of partisan prosecutions?
Well, first off, we have to remember the FBI does not prosecute anyone. The FBI conducts investigations, builds a case, provides it to the U.S. attorneys. They do the prosecutions. So one of the things I'd like to just highlight really quickly is that, DOJE, Department of Justice, asked for a list of people who were involved in the January 6th investigation. Reportedly the Bureau came back with about 5,000 names. Now, I'll give an example of how people are going to look at this. If I was an agent out in Oklahoma, and I got a investigative lead sanctioned by FBI headquarters, approved by Department of Justice, and no objection from the White House. And I'm asked to go out and say, verify a physical address, take down some license plate numbers, maybe do some physical surveillance and report my results. I don't see anything. I may disagree. I may say, look, I don't think this is right, but it's not illegal. It's not unsafe. Nobody's going to get hurt. I'm going to go out and cover the lead. I'm going to report my results in. Now I'm part of that 5,000 people. So I think what the department has to do is look at, was I a partisan actor? Was I doing this based upon my own personal ideology? Or did I follow an investigative lead objectively do my job, report my information, and then move on. So that's
Right.
I
Well,
think what they're trying to figure out now.
One of the things that Stephen Friend, the FBI whistleblower, had said about January 6 prosecutions is he had cooperative witnesses. They were working with the FBI, inviting them into their homes for interviews, and then they would hear nothing for a year and then get a SWAT team at their house in the middle of the night. And so he says that the FBI needs to forfeit the cases where it violated people's civil rights. And so that, I think, is what I'm asking for is, do any of those agents have any kind of excuse where they say, but this is what I was told to do?
No, I think on some level, some of those agents may be excused from service, right?
Okay.
If they were out there doing some of those things based upon, again, political or personal ideologies, maybe the FBI isn't a place for them anymore. What I find is that the FBI leadership at the time sanctioned those operations, sanctioned those visits to people's homes with SWAT teams. And I'll tell you, when I was coming up in the FBI, when I was taught how to be an FBI agent by what I like to call the old breed of agents, that was frowned upon. We never did that type of thing. We never showed up to people's homes in, military web gear and M4 rifles and SWAT type of operations. That was considered to be kind of clumsy and ridiculous, and SWAT was only brought out as an exception. So I'm not sure where the FBI's thought process was on those types of visits. But I'll tell you this, I blame 100% the leadership of the FBI in marshaling those resources against people who were cooperative or they showed no threat. And
the FBI was infiltrated and was being blackmailed. So I wouldn't have a lot of control over it anyway. And when you take into the history of the FBI and J. Edgar Hoover and all the blackmailable things that he was into, I mean, you could just see like that's been the entire history of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, which is why when Kash Patel said that he wanted to turn it into a deep state museum and get rid of the headquarters in D.C., a lot of people thought that was a good start, as they would allude back to the Shakespeare reference of what to do with the lawyers. That'd be a good start. The notion that these FBI guys presently can be deleting the evidence. Let's think about that for a minute. Hard drives, DVDs, things that are collected at a crime scene, maybe at Epstein's townhouse in New York City. Those end up in boxes. Boxes go into some sort of evidence storage where they're probably messed with, sanitized, cleaned. At some point, those things would get scanned in for evidence. When they get scanned into the information technology system, now it becomes a lot harder to start deleting it and making it look like it's not there. They have things, for instance, that they have to adhere to in information technology policy, because I used to make my living selling software to organizations that spend millions and millions and millions of dollars to make sure their data doesn't disappear and can't just be deleted. Now, there was the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002, which had a bunch of provisions that said you can't delete this data and you got to have special software and hardware to store it on a read once, write once, read many. It's called a worm drive. Let's go here. Right there. Write once, read many. That type of system is used for data storage, redundancy, to make sure that human error or, malware or FBI agents can't just delete all the data. This is a thing. It's been around for a long time. There's tape drives. There's various types of disks. There's all sorts of different accoutrements. It's multi-billion-dollar business, just this alone. So the other problem is, aside from the fact that there's a whole bunch of software copying data and co-locating it for disaster recovery so that if, 9/11 happens, data centers lost in New York. And that caused all the software companies to be like, we're going to charge our clients for disaster recovery, sell them twice as many licenses they need because now they got to put them at two different sites. What also makes it harder to delete that information when you got it out there at multiple sites, maybe even in a vault like Iron Mountain underground with some of the stored tapes and hard drives and legacy data that they might be keeping. So it's not so easy to just go get rid of it all. Also, we learned during the Operation Gladio days that while the CIA was trying to delete documents to make them look like they were never there, there were other places around the world in the NATO network that had copies of those documents, which were thoughtfully held in little filing cabinets that could be looked at and photographed, and evidence could be brought back over that the Nazis who infested this country and created the CIA in the first place, they've been leaving a lot of ill marks on our reputation over the past 80 years. These types of things can be brought to justice and adjudicated, and a lot of the evidence is floating around out there just waiting for people to find it. So I just wanted to put it out there that it is it's an obvious admission of guilt on their part that they're deleting documents, and you've got whistleblowers seeing them try to delete such documentation. But I'm always encouraged by the fact that when those people no longer have access to the systems, we can go in and find whatever else they thought they deleted, but are actually backed up on many, many places at once. So I'm an optimist. I'm a white pill optimist in this situation. And yeah, there's more to be learned about that topic.
Definitely. It just kind of brings to mind all the, I don't know if you guys saw the TikTok or whatever reels last week. It's just all the people crying about being a public employee, government employee getting fired. And it's like, part of me is like, that kind of sucks. But it's like, you shouldn't have been like treasonous, and you shouldn't have just been some just like waste of space in a bureaucracy. Like, you should have recognized that, hey, maybe I should apply my skills to something that's actually helpful to drive humanity forward. Maybe I should have taken the autonomy course and learned how to apply these skills in an actual market, not into some nebulous bureaucracy that leads to either just uselessness or corruption. So there you go.
I mean, it's kind of a conundrum, because how can we live as a group of people in this country who are free when everyone's enslaved to not knowing how to support themselves? Right? If you don't know how to build a skill, take it to the market, get paid in greater amounts than what you need, then you're enslaved by the ignorance and the indoctrination and the learned helplessness and the extended adolescence and the low fucking self-esteem and self-respect that comes along with that situation, which is easily resolvable, but it's not going to happen from going back to school. It's not going to happen from going on Craigslist and want ads and just mowing grass or something like that. You've got to up your skill level to up the value and utility you can transact with in the marketplace. And a couple times a year, we come together and find those who have the pain and want to resolve it once and for all, because once you know how to do it, it's the ultimate freedom fucking skill set. Knowing how to encounter an obstacle and a problem and turn it into a solution and keep on trucking toward your goals, that's what freedom's all about. And if you don't have the ability to meet the challenges and unknowns with a method, a network of people, and the principles and strategies well practiced from going into dojo and owning the skills to be able to accomplish those things in real life. And if you don't do that, you might think everything's a stage and everybody's an actor except for you, and everybody got handed a special pass except for you. It's like, these are decisions we must learn to make for ourselves. Had I just gone through college, I'd have been screwed. But because thankfully I found out that the business degree I was paying for in college wasn't going to even teach me how to run a business, I went and paid for the skills to learn how to run a business and hire and fire and do marketing and perform sales as a high value service. And then I took that skill set and I went into the marketplace and I made $1 million for myself in the first 5 years, because I have a no excuses attitude. And once you see how to crank that widget, you can go crank it as many times as you want. More rewarding for me is finding someone who, like my friend Phoenix, I met at PorkFest. He was living in his van, traveling coast to coast, delivering freight, sleeping in his van, not seeing his family, not seeing his kids, not enjoying his time at his house that he's paying for because he's got to be on the road the whole time, living in the van to make ends meet. I said, what a success story Phoenix would be if he just had access to the tools and methods and did a little practice. And in the past 2 years, he's closed over $2 million for the law firm for which he is now the vice president of sales. That wasn't going to happen driving back and forth, just listening to podcasts, listening to some free stuff on YouTube. He had to invest in himself. He had to shake off the demoralization of this world and say, you know what? I deserve something better and I'm going to go get it. And he did, and he's still doing it. And now he teaches sales training twice a week or once a week for 12 weeks, while we actually add that in as a bonus for autonomy so that people actually have not just the concept, but you get practice sessions on Tuesday nights where people are rolling in the dojo, doing the exercises, building the real confidence and competence they need to go out into the real world and kick ass. Not by taking advantage of people or plundering their production, but by adding real value and helping them solve problems they have and don't want, and helping them attain results they want and don't have. Now, if you think that you might deserve something like that for your future and that you're worth more than a minimum wage skill set, then I encourage you to get over to getautonomy.info, because we are enrolling now for season 13, and it's going to go by really fast. This is not a decision you make in 24 hours. It's going to take you a week or so just to find out about the opportunity, find what size package fits your budget so that you can grow at your own rate. There's nothing mandatory to the course. Once you get in, you have lifetime enrollment to the course, and you can keep coming back and improving and applying yourself in new creative ways as you grow your skill set. But if you don't get started now building a skill set, you can't expect it to be there and deliver for you anytime in the near future. However, getting started now, it does not take a lot to start to learn to show up for yourself, build some basic skills, start to apply those skills, and repeat and grow as necessary for the rest of your life. So if that is the type of change you're looking to make, then come meet the others who are doing likewise. And we have a lot of fun doing it. I mean, Paul's been through, Scott's been through, Colby's been through, LD's out there becoming a truck driver now and doing amazing things because he's taught himself to go get what he wants, right? These are adulting skills. And if you don't have them, you're being left behind, but it's not by us and we're not doing it on purpose. We're trying to encourage you to get past the fear of the unknown and to get into that leap of faith that allows you to start to flourish instead of wither in this world. Because not having enough money to pay the bills sucks. And that is not freedom. And if you want freedom, it is literally a few methods and principles away. And you just have to learn to apply it like we all did. What do you think, Scott?
Yeah, well, it is a lot of fun. And I just have to say, too, like, you know, if you're having difficulty responding to an email and coming up with 5 things that you did last week, right, and you're having this existential crisis, realizing that I should be so much more in this world, well, there you go. Autonomy, folks. It'll kickstart you right where you need to be. So there you go. Yeah, it's great.
It's actually just one of the most useful tools to help you in that evolution from the employee mindset to the entrepreneur mindset, which is really as simple as going from being a character in someone else's novel to writing your own story. And I think what happens, and this is like the grand seducer of everyone, is the promise of comfort and minimal effort for maximum gain. And a lot of these cushy government jobs that have existed are sold to people as like, you're going to be making a difference. But I know people have worked in these government jobs that are the bureaucracy where you just sit at a desk and you make work. If you're working for the FBI, you have to manufacture, kidnapping cases during COVID and terrorist attacks. If you're in the IRS, you have to manufacture as many financial scandals. And people are just trying to create as much work as possible. So now the era of the cushy job that's only been around for a century or two is starting to evaporate. And what's going to be left are the people who aren't
trying to work a 4-hour work week.
Well, and see AI on the horizon and realize that they have to take authorship of their own destiny in order to not just get ahead, but just thrive and survive in this upcoming next 20, 30 years, it looks like there's going to be this big shift. And so if you shift ahead of time in your mindset so that you stop seeking out someone to tell you what to do and seeking to minimize your responsibility and minimize your effort and get as much as you can, maximize your benefits, that mode of thinking, that ideology is kind of going out of date. It's no longer going to be as relevant, and people are going to have to take a little more authorship of their own destiny. And so whether that's starting a YouTube channel, building a business online, finding some vocation or converting a skill or becoming a teacher of some kind, there are so many opportunities that are out there. And so I can see that transition being smooth for people, but they have to start as soon as they can, because the sooner you start, the sooner you're on the journey.
Not only that, let's say you're all set for money, in which case Autonomy still has a ton of stuff to offer you. But what you're working on at that point is ownership of your time. And I haven't had anyone tell me what to do with my time in 20 years. I haven't needed someone to say, Rich, you need to go do this, or you should do this. I am plenty good at giving myself lots of work, more work than I could do for a long time. That's what your brain is supposed to do for you in your life. It's supposed to serve you like that. If you don't have that capability, I want you to know it is available to you. You do have access to it. I'm capable of teaching you and taking you through exercises for you to develop and build that, but it's not going to happen just from sitting on the couch and hoping and wishing and praying. You got to learn how to show up for yourself. And that means you're going to have to take a little chance on yourself now and then to get some progress. And if you don't know how to do that, then you're not in growth mode. You're withering and you're not embracing the complexity that could lead to all this growth and flourishing and future capacities that you might wish you had in your life, but presently are pretty, doing a good job of escaping being involved in your life. So anyway, I'll leave it there because there's plenty of people in the audience who are autonomy graduates and they don't need to hear more about what they've already been through, but they do appreciate the point that I'm trying to make for those who have the continual excuses, because I can't help people who want to bring excuses all the time. But if you're willing to put down some excuses and embrace some challenges, I can help you do pretty much anything you want to do with your life. I take away excuses and remove obstacles one by one until all my clients are left with is success. You can learn to do that for yourself. And if you haven't yet, you haven't really adulted. I guess that's the point, and I'll leave it there. What makes the Grand Theft World podcast unique, invigorating, exciting, and informative? Most other podcasts out there are either doing straight up interviews or they're just covering the daily news. They're covering current events from the day they happened. And that is effective. It's useful. It's a great starting point. And then sometimes these current events change during the week past the first story. So we like to give it a little time. You have to wait till some of the dust settles on these stories in order to give them accurate coverage. And the other thing that's really missing in the media landscape is covering the articles that are coming out every day. That's great. That's necessary. But who's bringing in contextual history so that you can understand what has been going on for decades and decades to lead up to the machinations and actions that we see unfolding today? So what we do here on the podcast is we cover current events. Many of these things are censored, but we wait about a week. As a forensic historian, I focused mainly through my career on the history of globalism and collectivism and things that they call maybe the New World Order. There's a lot of facts to these sort of circumstances, groups, events, activities, working groups that they've had over time. So for Grand Theft World listeners, we not only break down the current events, most of which that are censored during the week, we provide you with contextual history, we give you the source notes, the references, we do deep dives, and this really empowers you with an understanding of context and history so that you can make more informed decisions in your life. There's also a community, a membership where you guys can actually ask questions and we can get into the show and we can share evidence. And there's a town hall weekly for Grand Theft World for those who listen to it and are interested in covering the stories that we don't get to during a 6-hour show. Listening to it an hour a day, you could easily consume the week's news, but you're going to have substance and meaning and context and understanding. And with that, you can make higher quality decisions in your life. So if you're interested in more quality in your life, go to grandtheftworld.com, click podcast at the top, and we'll see you there. Thank you.
These allegations are false.
This isn't Grand Theft Auto, folks. This isn't a video game.
What are the most surprising things that you discovered once you started pulling on that thread? Who he was connected to, what institutions he was influential over, what events he participated in?
Come on, man. What are we talking about? Come on, man. No.
You don't have to think about it, dude.
I got this quote because you said you didn't know much about Klaus Schwab. I made it my job to, as soon as this happened, I'm like, okay, this guy's their front man. Let me learn about the official history of the World Economic Forum. I got their 40-year history. I got every book that Klaus Schwab has written or ghostwritten. I went through those books. This is one of the most interesting passages.
Come on, man.